Morning. It's early. It's about 6 a.m. July 18th. It's time to take a look at the ladies, talk about a few things. And my name's Joe D. Welcome to Growing in the City. It's an educational series. I've been teaching grow classes for 6-7 years now. And I've graduated somewhere over 600 students from my programs. And I'm not here to say I have all the answers, but I've learned to grow a good pot over many years, and I've had a lot of challenges. Started in 1987 and just stayed underground for a long time, kept it private, didn't tell my best friend. That's right, I didn't tell anybody. My wife knew, I knew. Jeff Brown, the kid from Colorado that showed me in the beginning, gave me a leg up. He said, "Hey, I'll show you how to do it. I'm from Colorado, everybody grows." I'm like, cool, let's do this thing. And here I am still at it. I'm very passionate about the sacred plant. In the beginning, it was all about just having some good smoke for myself and steady supply. Didn't have to deal with the droughts, didn't have to deal with the swag, didn't have to deal with the pressed Mexican brickweeds. You know, I mean, I did in the early days, but then when I had my own supply, it was like, whoa, I could smoke big fat joints. The early days, we just used a pipe because it was expensive, 40 bucks an ounce. I know that sounds like kind of a giggle, but it's relative to the time value of money. You know, back then you could get a lot more for your money. Today you get a lot less for your money. But let's dive into it, guys, and let's start talking about what I'm assessing this morning. So last night I did an application of the Lost Coast plant therapy. We'll make our way over to the workstation over there. We'll talk about a few products that you might want to consider having in your grow. Go to your local grow store and pick those up. Now, first off, look at the structure on this. It's beautiful. It's spread out nicely. My bamboos are working as planned. And when I did these LSTs, this is known as LST if you're new at this, so low stress training. There's multiple ways. There's super cropping, where you can go in here and you basically twist the stem here and you break it, and that's a high stress factor. Now, I've done that many times in the past because of necessities. I prefer low stress training. The less you stress the plant, the better. And some plants, if they're not stabilized genetics, they could have a potential to hermaphrodite. And what that means is the plant can be both a male and a female. And if it overstresses and it wants to survive, it'll pollinate itself, and that can happen under high stresses. So first off, structure's looking great, LST's excellent, and by doing so you can see the nodes here have now grown upward. So these will become flowers. All of these will become flowers. And you can see we're now hitting the 6-foot mark. Right now, this is about 5.5 feet. This is a 6-foot stake right here, so you know we're only about 4 inches off from being 6 feet tall. Now this, when just very early, let me zoom in for a second so you can see the early stages of, right in here. All right, here we go, right in here. I'm gonna zoom in and you'll start to see the little white hairs, okay? These are forming little bracts. Let me try to point with this little sucker here. These are gonna form bracts, which is the pod that would hold a seed if it got pollinated. Let me try to be steady with this, with the camera for you guys. Okay, this might help if I do this. There we go. You can barely see them, but some of the plants are maturing faster than others, and we're in the early stages, the beginning of the regenerative process. So being the 18th of July, we probably have another 4 weeks where we really start to see the beginning of the flowering sites. So I'm going to get a little bit ahead of it. So here's what I'm thinking on this particular plant. Oh, first off, the weather report is saying that there's some storms coming our way, and I've tied these off. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take some of the twist tie and I'm going to make a little circle around twice. So when these plants get wet and heavy, these will have a tendency to sag really low. Right now it's not a problem, but when they become flowers and they become real dense and heavy, that's when you have breakage. So we want to be aware of that. So I'm going to go through some of these today. I'm going to start the process of wrapping them. I'll usually do 2 to 3 levels. So if any branches get heavy and they bend, they'll actually lean up against the wire itself. So keep ahead of it. So you always get to know what your weather conditions are. That way you can plan ahead, what you're going to be watering, not watering. You don't want to oversaturate, whether you're in cloth bags or plastic bags. You want to take that into consideration. Now, what I'm thinking about right now is the fact that these are going to continue to grow, and we're not even in the stretch period. If you don't know about the stretch period, when you begin the flower process and have indoor growing, you know, when you flip your light cycle to 12-12, that's 12 hours of light, 12 hours of darkness, you have about a 2-week period where the plant goes, whoa, and it starts to stretch and it really accelerates in growth. And I learned this back in the early days with Jeff Brown, the rock star from Colorado. And I'd see all of a sudden my plants would like grow overnight. I'm like, whoa, check that out. And then you ran out of space. So if you were growing in a tent, all of a sudden you realize you're up into the light with your plant. So you got to think ahead when you're doing your indoor grow. We'll get to that at the end of the season because we'll transition from outdoor to indoors and you'll be able to see that whole process from start to finish. I'll be taking some clones off a couple of these plants soon and I'll teach you how to take clones and make cuttings so you can perpetuate the same genetics. So if you like the genetic, you can keep it going. I'm also going to be doing some breeding projects coming up with a group of guys that are real professionals. And we're thinking about the markets because the markets, in my opinion, they're spoiled. They have so many choices and so many flavors that they're always looking for something new. Guess what? We're going to give it to you. We're going to go back in time. We're going to go get back to the old genetics, the new genetics, and we're going to create some new super, I like to call them unicorns, some wow factors, some stuff that people go, oh my God, I got to have it. And it's hard to get. So stay tuned for that project and our podcast that's coming up soon. But here I'm looking at this particular one here. We're at the 6-foot mark. Here's the 6-footer, and it is now at the 6 foot. We can see the early stages starting. Let me get in this so you guys can see it. Okay, so those little white hairs that are starting to form, that are popping out, they're trying to collect pollen if pollen's available or if it's present. Now, I don't know if it's present because there could be somebody out there in the neighborhood growing outdoors with regular seeds that don't know and have a male that pollinates in probably another 6 weeks from now or 8 weeks, and all of a sudden I got seeds. It can happen, but I'm not going to worry about that for right now. What I am worried about is that this thing is going to continue to go and go and go. And this at 6 feet now is most likely going to be 8 or 9 feet. It's going to be way up here. Now there is a technique that I can do. I can come in here and I can top it. Watch this. I'm just going to come in just where it's starting to form right here. And I'm going to snip it just like that. And that little piece just fell right down. Let me see, where did it go? Here it is. As much as that hurts, it kills me to have to cut that top off. However, because I did do that, that's a little sacrifice to the baked gods, I call that. But that little sacrifice, here's what's going to happen. The plant now has to repair that damage, all right? And by doing so, what's going to happen, it's going to give time for these little internodes to drive upward and outward. So we're going to get, these are going to start to accelerate out because this is stopped going up vertically. And now the auxins are going to go downward, and now we're going to get the outward growth of these internodes. So by doing that slight topping, I'm going to wait on this one to see how it does because I may want to just let this go up. But several of these I'm going to top today, and I'm going to drive the lateral growth outward. Right? So this one here, I'm going to zoom in because you can really see the pistils starting to come out. See those little white hairs right there? There we go. Those little white hairs are trying to collect pollen, and as they die off, they turn brown or red, depending on your genetic, and then they're no longer viable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get in, I'm going to do a little cut back right about here. Boom. And we'll go along and do that to a couple other sites. We'll do it right here with this site right here. Get in there. I'm going to do it right over here. Now you can pinch it with your fingernails too, but if you have a pair of shears, you can be very accurate in doing so. So that topping. All right, so topping it is going to drive more lateral growth, and that gives us more yield. Right, at the end of the day, it's like, how much should I get out of that? Going to get some more yield. All right, so let's see. I think we're good. We did all the big, tall ones. Actually, I think I'm going to do this one so we can monitor it all the way through the grow. Right in here. Boom. Okay. Yeah. All right, now let's go take a look at some of these other ones. Now, each one you have to assess it individually. Now, these, I got these two like tall spires coming up over here, and these are going to really start to take off, and they're going to get really thick in flower. But I'd prefer if these sections drove outward because I can focus on all those tops versus one big giant cola. I want a lot of smaller colas so I have a better yield, and also it's easier to manage it because when it starts to get up to 8 feet, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to have to purchase 8-foot stakes. There's another expense. So everything has an expense to it, and you have to say, okay, what's my strategy here? Remember, if you've been watching my video series that I've been posting recently, I wasn't planning on doing an outdoor grow this year. I just moved to this property, and I was wanting to get settled in, get my indoor setup going. It's going to take a little time, unpack, pack. You know, if you've ever moved, it's a real pain in the ass. You know, you got to pack everything up, move everything, then unpack everything, then find its location, blah, blah, blah. It's a bitch. And so I had no plans of doing outdoors, but guess what? Cannabis has a way of finding you. And I couldn't say no, right? A friend in need, and it started with just, all right, I'll just do 4 plants. It's no big deal. Yeah, I could, 4 is no big deal. Won't take a lot of my time. And next thing you know, another 6 show up, and then another 6 more show up. And I'm like, oh, shit. I'm like, all of a sudden, I got a crowd. She found me. All right, so back to this one. Sorry, I digress a little bit. Now, here's something I want to show you guys. Outdoor growing can get dirty. Look at that. Dirty birds. Birds pooped on my plant. You know, they fly around. This is nature. And you got dust, you got pollen, you got bugs, all sorts of stuff. At the end of the season, I'm going to teach you how to do a bud washing. That's right. I'm going to wash my plants off, and I'm going to do them by dunking them. And I'll tell you, I've been bud washing for many, many years. Now, keep in mind, it is a mild solvent. You will lose a little bit of terpene into the water. Not a big deal, because the smoke is so smooth after you've cleaned it. You get all the dirt, the dust, the bugs off, and it's fresh and clean and neutralized any powdery mildew spores, all sorts of stuff. So bud washing is definitely a thing for the outdoor, at least for me. It's not for everybody, but I'll tell you, I'd rather have clean flower than dirty flower, like dirty birds. All right, back to these. I think it would be beneficial if I got in there at the tightest point I can. Let me just see, right in here. And we're going to top that right there. Okay, we just take that top right off. Again, now it's going to drive the lateral growth out. So let's get in here. God, it hurts to cut these things. You know, it was the hardest thing when I first started with Jeff. It's like, oh, we gotta cut these back. I'm like, what are you talking about? He says, oh, it's for the greater good, man. For the greater good. It's going to drive the lateral growth out. I'm like, okay, let's do this. Let's get in here just right there. And I can be very precise with the pair of shears. Just cut those little sections right off. And again, I'm trying to drive more lateral. And as I do that, greater good. You'll see. You'll see. Trust me. As we go through this whole process, you'll be like, oh, I'm glad I watched that, because I'm going to try that too. Don't be afraid to try it. It's not a big deal. And we'll come back and we'll assess to see how that worked out. All right, let's get in here right there, Jill, baby. Boom. All right, do we have to do every one of them? Yeah, probably. Why not? Because, again, yield, 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 baby. Okay, so we did a little haircut on this. A few sites we trimmed. And again, that's going to drive more lateral growth. We'll be back to check on her in a few weeks. Now this one here, man, this is just a wide ride bush, a shrubbery. This is going to need some work, because I've done the pullbacks, and because of its particular structure, it's going to be very difficult. So in this case here, I know down in this section here, this is all going to be fluffy, larfy shit. So I'm going to have to get in here and do another thinning. And that thinning, and I'm not going to do it today, but I'll do another video on it. But I'm going to get in there and clean up, and really clean up a lot of the bottoms, and drive the lateral, I mean not the lateral, but the tops outward, and focus on the tops versus the inward, because later in the season when I go to harvest this, it's just going to be a pain in the ass with all the leaf structure, how dense it is in the center. It looks beautiful like this, but when you go to harvest and the work that you have to go through for trimming, you're going to have these tiny little larfy little buds down below, and you're not going to want to process them. You're most likely to turn it into edible or something else, but I got plenty of other material for that. So I'll clean this one up. I'll do some more thinning, skirting. I'll get rid of a lot of this low growth. And when I get way down in here, like this branch way down in here, let me see if I can get you guys in here with me. This is going to be a waste. Let me just grab this thing here. Now, because I'm not reusing this this particular plant, I might take a cutting. I don't know that I would, because it's just too dense for me. Normally I would use a sterilization process for my shears in between if I'm doing, you know, commercial growing. But for this, I'm gonna let that go. So I'm gonna get down there and clear that out so it's not so dense. We don't have any issues with this, and we'll just focus on all the top so we can have a beautiful structure. All right, moving on to the next one. Now, what we're also going to do is we're going to start, I begin the process of top dressing. I've got to get in there and I've got to scruff that top a little bit and work that top dressing I did with the Roots Organic. I'm getting ahead of the bloom nutrients. I'm getting that started now. I'm going to be a little bit ahead of it because it takes a little bit of time for it to break down and become available. It's going to take probably a week to week and a half. It starts its breakdown process. You got to keep the top moist. Normally I like to put a fresh soil when I do top dressing, but I don't have any bags of soil right now. Again, another expense. If I was just doing 4 30-gallon pots, which these ones are, wouldn't be a big deal. But I got all the other ladies over there, so everything takes an expense. Now this one here, I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to do any topping yet. I'll see how it works out. This one here was kind of a pain in the neck because there's so many branches. Let's get down and take a look. See all these different branches here? Oh man. So what I did the belt system. I put a belt on the bag, and now I have an anchor point anywhere here I need, and I've stretched a lot of these open. Now I'm gonna have to probably add a few more stakes because it's kind of funky, and I need to be able to tie these off because later, like this piece here, this will become a bud. This will grow up and become a nice big bud. It'll probably come up somewhere around here. But it's going to get heavy, so I'm going to need to have a tie-off point. So definitely going to have to put a few more stakes. I did get another bag of bamboo stakes. These are some of they call them the metal ones. They're actually aluminum inside, coated with a plastic. I had some of those in inventory, so I just used them. But I like to be conservative. I use the bamboos. You can reuse them as long as you clean the bottoms. At the end of the season, you'll need to bleach them, kill any pathogens that might have been absorbed at the root zone. I don't know. They don't look unhealthy. One of the traits for hop slate and viroid, if you take a branch, see that branch was real weak, and that just basically broke. That's not a good sign. There's a potential that this could be an issue. So if you just gently touch it and they break, that didn't, but that first one did, and I don't like that. Yeah, they seem very weak at the joint. And see, that's doing that. So that's not a good sign. So I may have to send this out for a test. This is the I-95. Yeah. What happens is if it does have hop slate and viroid, it affects it at the joint. That's not a good sign. So we'll keep an eye on this one. And again, if it did have hops, I'm definitely not going to touch it with this shears and then go to something else. So we're going to leave that one alone. I'm going to do a little bit of research on that one, a little bit more assessment, and see if it has any potential of hop slate and viroid infections. It can stay dormant in the plant and then shows up later and dudding. It doesn't perform well, so it's definitely an issue. We'll take a look at that. These are some of the new ladies. Everybody's looking happy. I did the spray last night to protect from the nighttime beetles that come out here in New England. They start chewing like this. This one became, I think it was this one, or which one was it? I think it might have been this one. No, I think it's this one. This one's been getting chowed on, so it's been a tasty one. This is some from probably about a week ago. It was this, but I'm not seeing any new chewing marks, so I've been spraying a little bit more frequently. So last night at sundown, I put a nice application on all the plants, so I'm not seeing any biting. That's good. So I'm making it, this is from the past, from the other night. You can see that. So you got to be paying attention to your plants. That was from a few days ago right there. So pay close attention. Yeah, this one's getting chowed. It's a tasty one. Anyways, so, all right guys, now let's go take a look over here. What I'm getting prepared to do, which is to add some more nutrients. And these nutrients here are going to be top dressed. So what I'll do is I'll apply this. This is about just shy of 300 grams. When I'm using my measuring device, my scale, I like to use a little bag so I can protect the bowl, and now I can scoop that. So I know I have 300 grams. That'll go into one of the 30-gallon pots. So I'm going to be using the Botanicare. This is a new product this year, and I was excited to try it out because of the fact that in the past I've always done liquid nutrient mixes. you know, the organics, it gets expensive. Again, another expense where you have all these bottles you got to mix up, the time you got to mix it up. You need a nice big mixing barrel, and because I have so many, a little 5-gallon mixer is not enough. I'd have to have at least a 25-gallon mixing tank to mix up, or a 55-gallon tank, and then go feed the plants. It's a process. So I'm looking for simplicity. I'm looking for an ease of doing it. So a couple different ways is using this product, which will slow release. So, and this is an organic, or synganic, they might say. So it's derived from, let me just get in there, feather meal, soybean meal, nitrate of soda, bone meal, sunflower hull ash, phosphate rock, and sulfur of potash. 3.9%, slowly available, water insoluble, nitrogen, derived from feather meal, soybean meal, and bone meal. So this is a great little organic product that I can use. It's just a little pelletized, and this stuff will break down and become available to the plant. That's the nutrients. All right, so I like to look at it this way. This is the supply truck. It's bringing material over to the job site over there, and each one of those little pots is the job site to build the building. What's the building? We're building some flowers, we're building some plants, and the material, these plants all came from the soil. That means the building material needed to be available, whether it was salt or whether it was an organic material with life in the soil. The workers on the job site, I call them, and they help the plant with the components, the constituents here, which is the minerals. All those minerals will be available, and the workers on the job site will help make it available to uptake. Now, here's another one, Roots Organic. This is the Bloom Booster. I got to pick up the other bag, which is the Bloom, and the Bloom Booster and the Bloom go together. This was from my previous grows. I just found it as I was unpacking some of my grow equipment. This is a fantastic product. I love the terp teas. You can use it as a top dress, and you can also use it as a brewing of a tea. And you can see the NPK ratio is 0.5, 6 for phosphorus, and potash or potassium is 18. Yeah, baby, that helps with your, your resin productions, your terpenes, all that sort of stuff. But it also has a lot of good stuff in it, like you've got sucrose, which is a sugar source for the microbe. That says microbe food. The workers on the job site. That's right. Humic acid, 1.5. Humates or humic acids or chelators, helps the plant uptake. Yucca is a wetting agent, makes water wetter. It breaks the water molecule bonds, so you have a more efficient absorption ratio. And also, it's got a Bacillus megaterium. It's a worker. It's a group of them. It's a colony-forming unit. CF uses colony-forming units per gram. 250 million colony-forming units per gram. Damn! That's serious shit. So this is all from organic matter. So again, nice little product to get started. Get started on that. Actually, I put some on the other day. Was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday I did that, as a matter of fact. Lose track there. All right, and so here's a little bit of some of the tools for the workstation. CalMag, I'm always adding that when I'm watering. So the CalMag, calcium, magnesium, is very, very important. This particular one from Roots Organic has no nitrogen in it, which is great. You can use it from the beginning to the end. Foliar feeding by Floraflex. I'll use this once a week, so I'll spray this. This helps to kind of keep the plant on track, because if it's missing any minerals or it's having any deficiencies, this will help correct it. I like that. I love this stuff. I've been using this since it hit the market. I love that product. The Monterey, this is for the spraying. I did the Lost Coast. Let me show you that. I used the Lost Coast plant therapy last night. Fantastic. You should be spraying your plants at least twice a week, I'm telling you. Protected from the elements, the bugs, the powdery mildew spores, botrytis, all that sort of stuff. This one, the Monterey BT, which is a Bacillus thuringiensis subspecies, Kirkostaki strain. You can see that right there. Once I have seen moths, so I'll begin to apply this probably in the next week or two. I'll apply it once a week just to be ahead of it. So if caterpillars start hatching from the moths that have laid the eggs underneath the leaves that I just don't see, this will help kill them. It disrupts their digestive system, and then they die off. So great product to have. All right, that's just a couple of the items that we work with. Some other tools, dust mask. Oh, here's a cool one. If you guys don't have one of these, and back in the early days, let me try to get this open here for you guys so you can see it. Oh, here it is. This is a loop, and the loop allows you to get in and do inspections. Now, I also like to use a magnifying glass, which As I was unpacking last night, I did find one. So this has 2 magnification levels. This has a 30 and a 60, so the small one is a 60. So this allows you to get in and do inspections. Excellent tool. They're inexpensive. They're like, I don't know, 10, 12 bucks or something like that. There's an LED light for the 60 and an LED light for the 30. Now, when I get into the plant, if especially when I'm looking at resins or problem areas, you can really get in there with your eye and just get a real tight look, so you can see exactly what's happening. It's a definite tool you want in your toolbox for sure. Now, because I know it's going to rain tonight, this whole bin is portable, so everything will go in here and I'll just take it in and put it in the garage so that it doesn't get soaked. The other stuff can stay outside. All right, and then the sprayer, I lent it to my neighbor because he needed it for a project. Now I'm going to clean it out. He was spraying a vinegar and salt product to kill poison ivy, basically. You can see I actually tested it out over here, and you can see it wipes out. It wipes it out. Basically what it does is it lays onto the surface. It's an acidic. When using a concentrated vinegar, it's a 40% acidity. That's potent. And then you add salt, which basically it dries out the plant. You can see all this dead material here. That's an organic way of killing off, poison ivy, poison oak, poison sumac. Those are bad, bad, bad. Don't want to touch them. I'm allergic to it, and so it's a no-go, no bueno. So we want to get rid of that. So I did a test application here, and then out over his property, he's just trying to get rid of all of that overgrowth. You can see it's all overgrown on the fence over here. That's all got to be taken care of. So I'll do that another time. But the point was, I've now got to flush this out. I've got to use some baking soda to neutralize the acidity and clean that out so I can start to use it. I was using the pump sprayer. Boy, what a pain in the ass when you're doing that many plants. It takes a long time to get it covered. But this thing, it's a battery operated with a pressure pump. It's fantastic. Great. You'll see that in action real soon. So I think I've covered a lot of ground here this morning. Hopefully you got a couple of nuggets of gold at the Growing in the City series. Joey D here, powered by City Grown. Stay tuned as we begin to go to the next phase of what we're doing out in the outdoor sessions. And as always, that's right, may those resins bless your bowl. Peace. Happy growing. Don't forget, sharing is truly caring. See ya.